Have you ever watched a dog climb to the top shelf of a bookcase, tuck its paws neatly underneath its chest, and stare down at you with the perfectly composed expression of a creature who has decided your behavior is mildly beneath them? Because Japanese chin owners have. Every single day. The Japanese chin is the dog that never got the memo it was a dog. And today, we are counting down 10 reasons this ancient, extraordinary breed acts more like a cat than any dog you have ever met. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Number 10. High ground obsession. The very first thing a Japanese chin does when it enters a new room is quietly assess the elevation options. Not to find you more easily, not for a better view of the window, but because in the chin's internal philosophy, height equals authority, and they have never questioned that equation for a single moment of their existence. You'll find them on the back of the sofa, the arm of the recliner, the highest cushion arrangement they could engineer in their favor. Paws tucked neatly underneath their chest like a cat who has silently decided that floors are for other, lesser animals. Cat owners who bring home a Japanese chin for the very first time do a genuine double take. The posture, the elevation preference, the unmistakable air of quiet architectural ownership. All of it. Pure, unfiltered cat energy. Number 9 is where it gets even harder to explain to people who haven't seen it for themselves. Number 9. The grooming ritual. Ask any Japanese chin owner when they last saw their dog lick its own paw and use it to carefully wash its face, and they will pause, genuinely think about it, and tell you it was probably about 45 minutes ago. Japanese chins groom themselves with the focused, methodical precision of a cat who has a very specific personal standard and the patience to meet it every single time. They wipe their own face. They clean between their own toes. They maintain their coat with a level of self-sufficiency that makes you feel mildly optional as an owner. You didn't get a dog that needs constant grooming management. You got a dog that manages itself and occasionally permits you to assist, which is exactly the kind of arrangement a cat would negotiate. Number 8 is the behavior that stops first-time visitors completely in their tracks. Number 8. The silent communicator. Japanese chins are quiet in a way that feels deliberately chosen rather than accidentally inherited. While other dogs fill every available silence with noise, the chin sits across the room and communicates entirely through sustained, specific eye contact, subtle shifts in body position, and a vocabulary of micro-expressions so precise that experienced owners describe learning to read them like learning a second language. They don't bark to express a preference. They look at you. They look at the thing they want. They look back at you. The message lands clearly and is delivered with the composure of someone who has decided that urgency is undignified. You will find yourself whispering in a home with a Japanese chin. Not because they told you to, but because their silence is genuinely, almost mystically contagious. Number 7 is the behavior that has made this breed quietly legendary online. Number 7. The famous chin spin. Here is the one behavior that has made Japanese chins quietly famous among everyone who loves them. A behavior so specific, so joyful, and so uniquely theirs that it has its own dedicated name, the chin spin. When a Japanese chin is overwhelmed with happiness, when you walk through the front door, when their favorite person enters the room, when dinner becomes imminent, they spin. Fast, tight, completely uninhibited circles powered by an emotion too enormous to channel into any conventional dog behavior. It looks like an extraordinarily composed, dignified little creature, briefly abandoning all restraint and absolutely not caring who sees it. And somehow, the chin spin makes every other cat-like quality even more endearing. Because even the most regal, silently judging Japanese chin has a moment where pure joy completely wins. Number 6 reveals an instinct most new owners never see coming. Number 6. The stealth hunter. Here is the part of the Japanese chin's personality that surprises people who expected a purely decorative lapdog. Chins stalk. Not aggressively, not dangerously, but with the low, focused, deliberate patience of a cat who has identified a target and has all the time in the world to close the distance. A moth on the wall. A shadow moving across the floor. A toy positioned at the far end of the room that has been assessed, calculated, and is now being approached from a strategic angle. The hunting posture is identical to a cat's. Body low, eyes locked, movement precise and unhurried. It connects directly back to their ancient origins as palace companions in Japanese and Chinese courts, where sharp instincts were always valued alongside that gorgeous, composed exterior. Number 5 is the trait that genuinely confuses new owners more than any other. Number 5, the boundary expert. Japanese chins understand personal space in a way that most dogs simply do not operate with. They are affectionate, genuinely, warmly, deeply affectionate, but on a schedule and framework that they have established entirely themselves and that they expect to be quietly respected. They will choose when to come to you, they will choose when to leave, and they will communicate the transition between those states with exactly the kind of clear, low-drama signal a cat delivers when it has decided that the current interaction is now concluded. New owners who try to hold a chin past its chosen endpoint quickly discover that the chin has a very specific response to that. A gentle, dignified extraction from your grasp that is somehow not rude and entirely non-negotiable at the same time. Number 4 is the quality that makes Japanese chins uniquely therapeutic to live with. Number 4, emotional mirror mode. Japanese chins read the emotional temperature of a room the way other animals read weather. Constantly, instinctively, and with a level of accuracy that consistently surprises the people living with them. They know when you are sad before the tears arrive. They sense tension between people in the household before a single word has been spoken. And their response is never loud, never performative, and never intrusive. They will quietly move closer. They will settle near you with the composed, warm certainty of a creature who has decided their presence is enough. And they are absolutely right. There is something about a Japanese chin resting against you in complete silence that carries the same therapeutic weight as the best kind of human company. It is gentleness operating at the highest possible frequency. Number 3 traces everything about this breed back to its most extraordinary secret. Number 3, ancient palace DNA. The Japanese chin was not bred to herd, hunt, or guard. They were bred to exist in the most refined, privileged human environments on Earth, the imperial palaces of Japan and China, where they were treated not as working animals, but as living expressions of status, grace, and sacred companionship. That history is not just an interesting footnote. It is the entire explanation for why they behave the way they do. The self-containment, the preference for elevation, the selective affection, the silence, the composed, almost aristocratic bearing that makes them feel less like a pet and more like a dignified house guest who happens to live with you permanently. When a Japanese chin looks at you with that calm, ancient expression, you are not looking at a dog. You are looking at centuries of deliberate royal refinement standing quietly in your living room. Number 2 is where all of that refinement becomes deeply personal. Number 2, selective, fierce, love. Japanese chins do not love everyone. They love their person. The specific human, or small, carefully chosen circle, that they have quietly selected based on criteria entirely their own, assessed on a timeline you had no control over, receive a depth of loyalty that is genuinely difficult to describe to someone who has never been chosen by one. They follow that person without drama, without noise, with the steady, devoted presence of a creature who has made a permanent and irreversible decision. They will sleep nearby, monitor movements with calm attention, and greet them in that specific, ecstatic, spinning way that temporarily dismantles every layer of composed dignity they spent the rest of the day carefully maintaining. Being loved by a Japanese chin is not casual. It is specific, chosen, and absolute. And number 1 is the reason that truth matters more than anything else on this list. Number 1, kindred spirit, status. Here is the truth about Japanese chins that owners discover slowly. Usually somewhere around the 6-month mark. Usually in a quiet moment when their chin is settled nearby with that ancient, composed, fully present expression that exists nowhere else in the entire dog world. You don't just own a Japanese chin. You share space with them. You earn a relationship with them. You receive, if you are patient enough, consistent enough, and genuinely present enough, the considered, deliberate affection of a creature whose love was never automatic and whose loyalty was never guaranteed. That is not how most dogs work. That is how the best relationships work. The Japanese chin doesn't just act like a cat. It lives like a soul that arrived in a dog's body and quietly decided to stay entirely on its own terms. That is the whole extraordinary, irreplaceable secret of this breed. Japanese chins don't just blur the line between cat and dog, they redraw it entirely, in ink that is ancient, elegant, and completely their own. If you share your life with one of these extraordinary creatures, you already know that no description ever quite captures what they actually are. Drop your best Japanese chin moment in the comments. I love hearing your stories. Give this a like, share it with your fellow chin people, and subscribe and hit the bell for more.